We are still watching Tea or Coffee on High Impact Television. If you have not followed us on social media, now is the time to pick up your phones to follow us at High Impact TV or High Impact TV UK. And you can also join our YouTube family to catch up on all of the conversations we've had on Tea or Coffee at High-Impact TV on YouTube. Now we're going to jump into another important conversation that is, relating to the economic climate of the world, not just peculiar to Nigeria, but, globally around the world. Earlier I like that we started off with the show with giving off particular business ideas people can get into in this particular period, like handmade products, online education, health consultation, online health consultation, and all these kind of things. Now we're going to be looking at the impacts of COVID-19 on MSMEs, on medium and small scale businesses, how is it affecting operations? How is it affecting packaging? How is it affecting, movements? How is it affecting trade generally? So, this conversation is quite balanced with what we've done this morning, because we've provided particular businesses that people can start. Now we're going to look at some of the factors affecting
MSMEs,
said businesses, so that if you're looking into one of the ideas that we set for you this morning, you know how to work around some of these challenges that we will be looking into this morning.
Before the pandemic, anytime we have conversations with guests where we talk about SMEs and MSMEs are small and medium scale enterprises, and then macro, small, medium scale enterprises. We will talk about growth, we'll talk about development, but most importantly, we talk about funding and, how they can actually get that particular amount of money for their businesses. And that was even before the pandemic. Now there is the pandemic. Now there is COVID-19. How will they get this money? Right. How are they developing? How would they go? How have they been affected? How have they been able to move forward? Because take it or leave it, we still have businesses that have thrived, notwithstanding what has happened in the country. Yeah. But then how have they been able to move forward? What is the new reality? How's the new reality affected them? And what can they do to make sure that, they're standing firm and, they're able to do the needful? Because now, take it or leave it, having businesses in Nigeria can be something. And that's the question that I'm going to ask, because you're paying for a lot. Apart from the fact that you're paying for electricity, you're paying for space, you're paying taxes, you're paying different business levies, you're paying association levies and all of that. So, and if you're under a vocational skill where you're meant to, have when you're meant to have a business out there, you're meant to pay for something. So how have they been able to even afford it? How have they been able to, go through with all of these things? And that's the conversation we'll be having this morning with our guest.
Sheye Olurotimi. He is the founder and president of MSME Africa. And he has also developed a special interest in SME branding. Good morning, sir. Good morning. Glad for you. Glad you could join us.
Good morning, and thank you for having me today.
Hello, good morning, Sheye. Can you hear us?
Yeah, good morning. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for joining us this morning. How are you doing?
I'm very well, and you?
I'm great. I hope you're keeping safe.
Yeah, I'm keeping safe. I have to.
Fantastic. Now, let's jump into the conversation this morning. Our topic is mitigating the effect of COVID-19 on MSMEs. Now, before the COVID-19 crisis, where would you say the MSME sector was before? I mean, what would you say they were in terms of growth? How big was the MSME sector in Nigeria before the pandemic?
Okay, great. Before the pandemic, I guess before I even go into what stage of growth they were in, I need probably to lay a foundation about what MSMEs are. Because a lot of time when we call a business MSME, some people think it's derogatory, so to say, because they feel they are not MSMEs. But the truth is, based on the classification by the National Policy on MSMEs, if you are still doing less than 1 billion naira, or you have a staff headcount that is less than 200, you are still an MSME. So, putting that in, if you have that in your head already, you know that a lot of businesses that even think they are big corporates, they are still MSMEs. So now to your question about where MSMEs were before the pandemic. Yeah, the MSME sector was at a stage where it was growing rapidly, but the growth was not commensurate with the level of debt that was expected. Yeah, the numbers were growing. It was even reported that more women-led MSMEs were springing up. So we had a lot of people going into business, but if you look at the numbers compared with the depth and the structure and the kind of quality of the businesses they were running, there are a lot of disparities. And so there are a lot of deficit in know-how and capacity building. They lacked a lot of them don't have structure in place. They didn't have well-defined processes. And then, of course, government was not paying attention to them. We didn't get adequate attention from the government. And then most importantly also, MSMEs had a lot of issues with funding and finance before the pandemic. According to a report from PwC based on the survey they conducted in 2018-2019, thereabout, MSMEs had a funding deposit of about 17 billion naira. So that was the stage where we were. And even according to that report, MSMEs had a lot of issues with multiple taxes and then a lot of infrastructural deficits. So that was the stage where MSMEs were before the pandemic.
All right, let's quickly talk about the role of the government, because you said that the economic climate of the country, that the government did not pay attention to MSMEs, and that's one of the factors that is causing a challenge, a struggle, for MSMEs in the country. So let's talk about the role of the government. So this administration has said that they are going to, for instance, pay for a lot of startup businesses on their registration and whatnot. There seems to be, now this administration has also come up with grants that youth can have access to. So what else does this government need to do? What else do they need to do for this economic climate to make, an environment that MSMEs can thrive in?
Okay, so what I see the government doing basically is trying to react and respond to already established issues. So what about preempting issues that could happen within the MSME space and helping them to solve it ahead of the problems? So COVID came and government is saying we have MSME Survivor Fund, we have the CBA Targeted Loan, we have the Youth Investment Fund, we are doing payroll support, we have the guaranteed offtake. Good, wonderful stuff. But what if they are preempted that things like this will happen? So going to your question, I would want government to start thinking about the future, what could happen within the MSME space, and start already preferring solutions to them. So if you want to talk around the kind of areas they should look into, they should be looking at providing capacity development for MSMEs. Where you provide funds for people and they don't know how to run businesses, they will take that money and they would squander it. Let's refer to the case of trader money that this government came out, given out around the time they were campaigning for election in 2019. They gave out market money, trader money, and then everybody said, okay, you're doing a good job. But after a year, they came back to say most of these guys did not return the money they gave them as well because they were not trained how to manage businesses. So when I have money and I don't know how to manage business, it's a problem. So I think government should do more around capacity development. And then the regulatory landscape should also be favorable. I shouldn't have to experience issues trying to get my product registered with NAFTA, with SON, and other regulatory bodies. I also think the ease of doing business index should move up. If government can, as much as possible, provide infrastructure that is needed for MSMEs to thrive. According to the report of PwC, MSMEs spend 21%. 21% of their costs daily go into electricity. That's a big issue. So let them solve those problems, and then we would clap a lot more than we are currently doing.
Okay.
All right, let's talk about funding. So, I mean, you said one of the major problems that MSMEs, one of the major challenges that MSMEs faced before the pandemic was funding. Now, there is the pandemic, so I want to assume that they're still facing that particular challenge. And in fact, I want to believe that that challenge is double because, I mean, there is now a pandemic. How do you think an MSME can get funding and, you know, get their business on the go? And then for people that are wanting to join or to become or to own an MSME, how can they get funding to get this going? Because, I mean, there are a lot of obstacles running businesses in Nigeria, like you've mentioned. You've talked about light, you've talked about infrastructure and all of that. But, like, how can they get going when it has to do with funding?
Okay, so with regards to funding, we need to look at what problems they have suffered when it comes to funding. There is a lot of cash flow problem for MSMEs. So it's not necessary that they are not making profit, but they have money that they don't have access to because they didn't plan their businesses well. And so a lot of them also have they have debt they have not been able to pay. They have not been able to meet up with their obligations here and there. Some of them have had to lay off their staff, and even some of them have actually ceased operations. So when it comes to funding, this is what I think they should do. There's a part for government to play, and there's a part for the people to also play. But when it comes to the MSMEs themselves, they need to keep their books well. PwC says 617.7 billion deficit in funding gap for MSMEs, and this is less than 1% of the total credit given out by the banks in 2018.
Okay.
So that tells me that either the banks are not willing to give, or the MSMEs are not meeting up with the conditions that they should meet up with to get the funds. So that means the funds are there, but they are not meeting up. So MSMEs are not keeping proper records. They don't know what their turnover is. They don't know what their profit is. So when you don't have proper records, why would I want to give you a loan? Why would I want to expose you to funding? That's number one, keep proper record. Then develop capacity. Because when it comes to accessing credit, it's not just about going to bank and say, I want to get money. They want to look at your capacity. What have you done before? What's your managerial capacity? Who are the people driving the business? How good are they? What is their track record? Then I think another area they should look at is how to drive their business with technology. Because right now, technology-funded businesses are getting funding, both within and outside the country. You talk about the likes of Paystack and the other guys that are getting funding because they are driving their business with technology. So if you want to be recognized, want to be respected, want to attract funding, drive your business with technology. And like I also said, you need to build character along the line. If you get funding from a bank of 1 million, for instance, and you don't pay it back, you won't get another one, especially in the days of BVN, where if you have problem with one bank, we can easily track it in another bank. So develop character along the line. When you get access to small amount of money, make sure you pay them back. Then another thing that MSMEs are not thinking of is equity funding. They just want to collect money from you and pay you back. What about allowing me to own 5% of the business, 2%, 20%, and then you have enough fund to run the business and to scale it? So we need to start thinking about equity fund, not just this mentality of I want to own all the business. So if you want to give me money, it has to just be a soft loan that I can pay back. Sometimes the investors want to invest in the business and get equity, so we need to look into that. Then talking about what government can do, I think government can provide a lot around regulation. Let CBN, let SEC, let all the regulators be seen as being fair and providing all the necessary regulatory environment that will allow the businesses to thrive. I think with all of these, MSMEs can actually pick up.
All right, so I'm really finding this point on capacity building very fascinating. I'm finding it very, very interesting. You know, one of the things that we talk about a lot on Tea or Coffee is actually accountability. And I like that you've mentioned capacity building as a form of accountability from both sides, you know, from the point of the government and point of MSC business owners essentially in the country. So my question now as relating to capacity building of business owners in this country is, you know, we've looked into what the government can do. So that's what public institutions can do. How about private institutions? How about private bodies? private organizations? Because, if we are in a thriving economic climate where every business is making money, then it's essentially boosts trade within the country, and that essentially develops the economy of said country. So what can private organizations or individuals, or can they do anything, in relating to capacity building of smaller business owners in the country?
Yeah, the private sector, like you rightly said, can do a lot because we can't actually saddle government with all the responsibilities. Government should just provide enabling environment, provide direct interventions on occasions where it is needed. But for it to be sustained, we need this private sector to drive capacity development for MSMEs. And so we need to start coming up with accelerators and incubator programs that entails helping MSMEs to understand the basics of running businesses. We need to create business schools. I want to commend the likes of Tony Elumelu Foundation and Faith Foundation for what they are doing. Let's look at Tony Elumelu Foundation, for instance. You get access to, you get a grant of $5,000. But before you get access to that money, you go through 1 year of capacity development. They will teach you everything you need to know about entrepreneurship, and then you'll have access to a mentor that will train you for 1 year. And I'm one of the mentors. So in that kind of situation, when you get the fund, you will not mismanage it. You know how to handle businesses. So I want to call on private sector, even private organization. You can set up a foundation that is just devoted to training entrepreneurs on how to manage businesses. And then some of these captains of industry, they can serve as mentors for these young individuals that are just coming up. It doesn't cost so much. 1-2 hours in every month, you can set up like a program where you mentor 5-10 entrepreneurs, let them know how to manage businesses. And then you can even organize a school, for instance, on financial literacy, which is a big problem for MSMEs, where they learn how to keep their books, they know about their ratios, they know about turnover, profit, and things like that. By the time we have such institutions and schools and other organizations entrenched in our culture, a lot of MSM will be exposed to this knowledge, and you will just be surprised at how well they will run their business, how better they will run their business because of the knowledge they have been able to gain.
Right. Okay. So let us end this interview on an admonition from you. Your bio stands out. Very much so. And considering that you've just said that you're actually a mentor on one of the pivotal foundations in this country, means a lot, to our viewers as well. So let us admonish some of our viewers, some of the business owners that are watching this morning. What can they do to create a sustainable business in this period, in this economic climate that we are currently?
Okay, so to create a sustainable business, it has to start from where you are even conceptualizing the business. You need to ask yourself a lot of questions. What problem am I trying to solve? Am I going to business because I want to sack my boss? Because that became like a fad. That became like a common thing. Sack your boss, and everybody started living their 9 to 5 to want to start a business. If that is your only motivation, it's a problem, because you're going out because you want to sack your boss. You're not going out because you want to solve a specific problem. And so you thrive in business based on the problems that you're solving, right? People have problems. That's why they're coming to you to provide solutions. So for you to run a sustainable business, there must be a fundamental problem that you are solving. And then another thing, there must be a value proposition. In solving the problem, what are you proposing to them? Are you solving the problem? Are you alleviating the problem? Are you connecting them to platform to solve the problem? So your value proposition has to be well defined. You must know what your value proposition is. So if they wake you up in the morning and anybody asks, what is the value you are bringing on the table, you need to know it. So until that is well defined, you might not be able to run a sustainable business. And then after those two, you need to learn how to know your numbers. What are your numbers? What are the indicators that your business is profitable? What are the indicators that you are running low on cash? What are the indicators that you need to bring in an investor? Sometimes people go to bank to ask for loan, when at that time all they need to do is just to offset some of the products they have in their store. But when you don't have an understanding of what proper bookkeeping is, you will run into problems. So, like I said, have a value proposition, define the problem you're solving, right?
Yes.
And also you need to learn how to scale. Don't plan to stay on the same level. I know it's a problem for most entrepreneurs to want to say, I want to start employing, because you'll be thinking of payroll at the end of the month. But we are building a sustainable business, it has to be beyond you. It's self-employment where you are just the only one running the business. But when it's a sustainable business, you want to bring in some other people into the business. So start planning for that. How do I scale? Can I do it alone? Can I plow back my profit to scale the business? Or do I need investors at this stage? Do I need equity funding? Do I need debt funding? Think about all of that. And of course, get a mentor. I would always say, get somebody that is thriving well in business that you can actually look up to and learn from them. What you will not teach in business school, you will learn from them by interacting with them face-to-face or by whatever platform they provide for you.
Thank you.
That's what I would say to MSMs that are trying to use sustainable businesses.
Thank you very much, Sheye Olurutemi, for joining us this morning. Thank you very much. Thank you for sharing all your insights on mitigating the effect of COVID-19 on MSMEs. Do have yourself a lovely day.
Thank you very much, too. Thank you so very much for inviting me.
All right. Thank you. All right, we just had a conversation with Sheye Olurutemi. He is the founder and president of MSME Africa, a multifaceted resource platform for micro, small, and medium-sized businesses in Africa. The conversation was on mitigating the effect of COVID-19 in MSMEs, and one conversation that we need to have, because this morning we talked about businesses that you can do in the pandemic, and these businesses, some of them actually fall under MSMEs, and he told us that some people feel like it is beneath them for you to call their businesses MSMEs because they just don't feel like they are. But then he said, if you're not making up to a certain amount of money, you are an MSME. Yes. In fact, if you're facing certain challenges and you've not been able to rise above it in this economy, you are an MSME. And, finance and funding is a little bit tough out here on the streets. But, you need to be able to, work on what you have at the moment, develop yourself. One take home from this conversation is get yourself an online presence. Simple and short. Get yourself online. Get yourself an online presence. Make sure your business is a technology-driven one. Let people see you and what you do, no matter how little it is. Funny thing, remember, on Friday, we took that Lori Raw conversation. I just checked yesterday, checked my Instagram, and I saw him on Instagram.
Okay. Oh, the old guy?
The guy, yes.
Really?
The man is on Instagram. He has over 3,000 followers. I don't know if he's more right now. And then, he's an evangelist. He's on Instagram. People will reach out to him because people just loved him. He's an Ibadan-based evangelist. And, a lot of media houses had him on. And people just opened an Instagram page for him. So how about you make your work technology-driven, let people see you, talk about what you're talking about out there. And that makes a lot of sense. Talk less of you that is selling products and you are not online. Why? Why? Lori Roy is on Instagram. Why aren't you on Instagram? It's very interesting.
I think my takeaway from the conversation with Sheye Olurutemi this morning is actually understanding your position. Understanding your positioning and, adapting your reality, the operations of your business according to the position you are in. So when it's time to scale, it's time to scale. When it's time for you to make particular decisions as it affects your business because of the climate you are in, so you really need to take where you are in that business into consideration so that you can make, proper decisions. You can make proper judgment, proper discernment concerning, the things that are relating to your business operations compared to others as well. So, it's very important that, we actually understand what we're doing so that we can essentially foresight where we are going in this business to create a sustainable business. Very interesting.